I'm Joel Love with the University of Florida, located at Live Oak at the North Florida Research and Education Center, Swanee Valley. And today I'm with Ernest Fulford, one of the managing owners, partners of Fulford Family Farms, and we're standing on a farm that he leases from the Alford family. And today we're going to talk about what Ernest sees or has seen as he's developed a cattle row crop integrated farming system, and we're going to talk about what he sees are the benefits of that. But before we get started, Ernest, could you give us a little history on your farm about the generations that now are where you are now, as far as with your youngest son that could be coming along in the future, and just tell us what you grow, your rotations, those kind of things, so the audience will know where you come and where you are right now at the moment, at least on this farm.
Right. I've been farming for about 30 something years, ever since I got out of college in the late 80s. And but the farm was originally started by my granddad back in 1945 when he got out of World War II. He started growing green peanuts for boiling, and I think that's about all he had at the time. And then Dad and his brother come along, and they kind of helped grow everything, and they kind of branched out and had corn, soybeans, grain sorghum, peanuts, and cattle. We had cattle at that time when I was younger, up until probably about the early 90s, I guess, was the last cattle that we had. And we grow, or I currently grow right now, it's me and my son, and my dad helps a little bit. We grow cotton, peanuts, soybeans, and this year I'm adding corn silage into the mix for a local dairy.
Ernest, tell us a little bit about, y'all used to, of course, years ago, everybody did conventional tillage, but tell us kind of your history from conventional tillage and how y'all progressed to the point where now you're using strip tillage and cover crops.
Yeah, conventional tillage, I'd always noticed we had such a weed problem with every time we disturbed the soil, we'd have more weeds than we could control, plus the terraces were problems for me. They're a weed seed bank. And so started thinking about what we can do to get away from that and help that, and started looking into strip tillage, and that's when we started planting the cover crop and took out terraces, and just like the way it went, the soil health improved, and not turning the soil anymore. We had less weeds, and it just seemed like the best thing to do at the time. We'd seen a couple of other people do it, and they told us we were crazy if we did it. They couldn't get it to work, and then they'd come by and see stuff in our fields where we would normally harrow and till the ground and all, and then see all these weeds. They're like, it's gross out there, that don't look good. You got weeds in your crops. Well, it was dead weeds, but it was our cover crop at the time, the rye and all. And but once we started seeing the benefits of that, and we had better yields and lower cost on inputs, that it really worked out for us.
Talk a little bit, probably even before that, the problems you were having erosion. The land that you farm is anywhere from 2 to 8% slope, and this is one example here, is very steep land, and it would be almost impossible to farm unless you were using the methods you're using now. So yeah. Kind of tell them the history from the building the terraces and the waterways, and then where you progressed to the strip till and cover crops now.
Yeah, we started building terraces and we followed the NRCS guidelines on everything, but it just never worked. It didn't seem like it would hold the water. Well, it was holding the water and making worse problems in the fields than it was if we didn't have terraces. And that was one of the reasons we were able to pick up this ground and expand more ground. It's hillier ground that we couldn't conventional till this farm at all. There's just no way. Would be too much erosion, and by doing the cover crops and the strip tillage allowed us to take in steeper ground that otherwise would just be used for cattle or pine trees.
So, Ernest, you said you got away from the cattle. Your granddad had cattle on the home place when you and I were younger, and then later on y'all added stocker cattle on cover crops in the winter, and then that kind of went away. So what happened around 2010? What became available specifically here that allowed you to bring cattle back into the operation?
Well, when we were looking to expand and pick up more ground and come across this ground and started approaching him about it, about what we could do here and plant a grazing crop for him after we take our cash crops off. And it was a benefit to both of us for that. He's getting the benefit, I'm getting the benefit of the free fertilizer I'm getting from the cows, and also the cover crop, what's left that they don't eat, we still have something to cover the ground when we're done.
What were the challenges, obstacles you faced when implementing this new system? In other words, trying to integrate row crop, and you can talk about the challenges y'all had. It's been a marriage between you and Mr. George and how to make all this work, because sometimes he wants to graze a little longer, and I got to plant my row crop in a timely fashion before I run out of moisture, and then in the fall he's needing winter grazing, and then you to harvest the crop. So talk about those challenges and how y'all work through them.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest challenges is getting the grazing crop planted in a timely manner. We've kind of did different things to try and help that. We've spread our cover crop before peanut digging, after peanut digging, and before the combine. We've did several different things. There's no perfect system, I don't think. We've run into obstacles both ways. Having the equipment to plant our cover crop was a big challenge over here, because we didn't really have anything to plant. We didn't have a drill that would work or anything. So we tried several different methods. We've used, finally bought a no-till drill. We've used that. But my favorite method is broadcast spreading the cover crop and then coming back and tilling it in with a vertical till machine. That's been the best and most efficient method we've found so far.
Okay. But the no-till drill has allowed you to plant Bahia grass, which you've done more precisely on this farm.
That is
correct.
correct.
If you want to convert back to Bahia
That
grass.
is correct. We're trying also to keep a sod-based rotation over here as well. And we're going to plant, there's a 30-acre piece where those cows are back there, that I'm going to plant Bahia grass on this year. And we're looking to find another one of these pastures to take back out and go into cash crops.
How long have you been using this system here, and what are the benefits you have seen farming this way here?
We started here in 2010, and just right off the bat, we were seeing benefits. I don't know if it was the cattle or the Bahia grass or a combination of both, that our yields over here were just off the charts. Probably 50 to 100% better on some years than our other ground. And as it progressed through the years, I thought it would, go down, and some of it has, but it's been due to weather and conditions out of our control. But the ground is just so much healthier here, and a lot of times you can come out here, I don't see any now, you can see earthworms, in this field, and that's unusual. I don't know that I've ever seen in a conventional tillage system that you'd ever see worms out in your fields.
All right, so I guess another question we all have here is, you've got this, I don't remember the acreage on this farm, but part of the farm has pecan trees on it, so that makes it hard to farm. But you got some big fields you don't really want put Bahia grass. So how did you manage this big field instead of putting it all in Bahia grass? Just tell them what you did with that. And then some of these other fields, you've got a field that you put in Bahia grass, and I think it's in its third year, and it's probably due to come back into crop production. And there may be another field we can take portions of, as long as we strip till and put cover crops. You go ahead and talk about what we might could do on this farm, using the methods you're using to farm this.
Right, yeah, the field we're fixing to plant in Bahia grass, it's been out of Bahia for 7 or 8 years now, I guess, and it's time to go back in. So it's a large field, and I do hate to split it up, but we did fence half the field, and we're going to do half of it hopefully this year. just depends on how everything works out. And if we can, we're going to take the field that I'd planted 5 years ago in Bahia that was in that same 3-year rotation of Bahia grass and then 3 years of cash crop. And just the benefits of that, along with the cattle grazing on top of it, it has reduced our expense. Our fertilizer expense has probably been reduced by 50%, if not more. This ground is very healthy and rich in nutrients. And we've also reduced, I wouldn't say disease. We still have some disease. It has reduced the disease. We don't have as much as we do on some of our fields that are not in cattle grazing. But it's also reduced our lime cost. Our pH is more stable, and we don't have to apply lime as often as we do on places we don't have the cattle and Bahia grass rotation.
Okay. So Ernest, talk a little bit about the cover crop demonstration project we've got here on this farm, and are you seeing any benefits out of limiting the tillage, number one, number two, trying to get cover crops established as quickly as you can after harvest, and then the multi-species blends with cattle grazing on them in the winter? What are your thought processes about that?
I think seeing this multi-species blend has been great because the cows seem to eat everything else down, the rye and the oats, and there wouldn't be any cover out here if we didn't have this blend in with it. And I also believe these tillage radishes and the other things we've had, clover and winter peas and it kind of looks like these fields that are in this type of cover just it's healthier ground. It's producing more than the others that we don't have this cover crop blend.
All right, so I guess another question we have, Ernest, I know we've talked about what you're doing here and the benefits you're seeing here on this farm for Bahia grass to cattle, multi-species cover crops, a strip till, but you got a lot of other land that's dry land, number one. Number two, you lease a lot of land, and then you own some land of your own. But tell them what the obstacles are that are preventing you to do that same rotation on this other land, whether it's the land you own or land you lease, and the cost of infrastructure, time management to manage the cattle, all those things that I think you want to do or like to do, but there's some things still that need to help you get that done.
Yeah, I'd like to do the same thing on my home place that I do own, and I'm currently looking in to do that. But I think the biggest obstacle right now is, well, we've had several bad years. We just don't have the finances.
Hurricane.
From all these hurricanes and the drought and all, but we don't have the money. But that's a big obstacle. I'd like to fence my home place and do this same thing on my home place. And that's probably the biggest obstacle, just finding financing for the fencing. Mm-hmm. And of course, if it's somebody new coming into it, it's equipment. They don't have the equipment to go in and do this type thing. And the cows do take a lot of time. If you're in row crops, you've got to make time to manage your cattle. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be a challenge to do it on my own place, and for anybody that would be starting that. And I think there's USDA has some programs, some fencing programs that I've been talking to Steve, our local USDA guy, on that. There are some cost share help with that. I think that will be a benefit, and there may be some help on equipment too. I'm not really sure through them or through the conservation district that would be a big help for somebody trying to do that.
Right. So one of the big things that we don't have on cropland is perimeter fence, and typically that has not been cost shared in the past. And correctly, you've stated that NRCS helps with cross fencing and water troughs and wells to help better manage the cattle on a farm. So, what would you like to see? And I'm going to use this term loosely. The partnering agencies do to help you better integrate cattle with row crop. What would be your ideal scenario?
I would like to see.
What would you like to see help on to help you do that?
Yeah, I'd like to see help on fencing my place to get it ready. We had cattle years ago, but those fences are 30, 40 years old, and I might could repair them, but I doubt it. And it would be a big help to have money to do that. And I've already got the equipment, but the ones that would be coming into it don't have that equipment. That these agencies could partner together and kind of help somebody that's trying to do this with because it's a large expense. Fencing is very expensive. Wells are expensive. The equipment to put in a cover crop, if you don't have a tractor or, you know, drill or whatever, no-till drill, they were very expensive. And I got some cost share help on that, and that was I wouldn't have it otherwise. And yeah, it's tough. If the agencies could get together and come up with a plan to help everyone, you know, and kind of come together, it would be a big help.
So Ernest, I guess another question I have is, and this is overwhelming either for a cattleman or for a row crop producer in your case to deal with. So tell the group how many acres of row crop you're farming now, and if you were to integrate cattle, which changes your cash flow a little differently, probably would you reduce your acres to allow more time to manage the cattle, and would you still think that would be profitable, or you would have to figure out what that right mix of acres would be in your farming system?
Right now, currently I grow about 1,200 acres, and I would have to take out probably, I'm guessing maybe 100 acres or so would still be manageable to be able to still do the row crops and also manage cattle as well. That's about all I could handle, I think, at a time. But if there was a way I could have help financially, I could do this on some of the ground that I lease and have those places fixed up where I could, you know, swap from my place to a lease place and just kind of do it like I do the sod base rotation, kind of do a cattle rotation on these different farms.
And then something that would come into play would then be something like portable working pens, and you have to have a way to haul the cattle to those farms, and you need to move them, get them off the cover crop, start planting a row crop or whatever. So,
but I think that would, I've thought about it for a while. If I could make it work, if I could rotate farms, say like 100 acres a year based on unless I do reduce my acres, that's about all I could do without reducing acres is 100 acres between the farms. And the benefits would kind of pay for some of the, even though it's a more expensive cost, because you're going to save money on fertilizer, you're going to save money on lime, you're going to save money on multiple things other than, I'm sure I can't think of all of them right now, but it's some of that would kind of offset the cost of doing this on the other farms.
Right. So I think we're kind of, it's insinuated we're talking about mama cows or cow-calf operation, but what if you could get more of this land fenced and with infrastructure in place to find a partner that not necessarily you do it, but somebody bring in stocker cattle, whether it's developing heifers or bulls or steers for gain. Would you be interested in having that on all your acres in the winter?
Yeah, if we could get everything fenced, and we could, I would love to.
And again, the right partner to marry.
Right. I'm a big fan of cattle in row crops. It's just, there's so many benefits you see, and the yields and everything is just, you know, so much better behind it. It's going to offset some of that cost.